how do you work with people to find out what they want?
Well, I've been working with this whole concept of expanding your comfort zone. And one of the things that I realized was I'd been talking all year about how you sort of build a little nest and you make the person comfortable and they can move into that nest. And that sort of morphed into talking about blueprints. So what I'm currently doing now is I have a series of about 11 life design blueprints. And each of these blueprints helps somebody envision what their ideal life is really like. You know, I work with a lot of people who kind of are living these black and white, dull lives, and there's all this living color out there in the world for them, for goodness sakes. So I want to get them into that. But first they have to have a vision. And just as if you're working with an architect will give you a vision for your house or whatever changes you're making in your existing house by developing a blueprint. I'm a life architect. So I give you a blueprint for all the different pieces of your life. So we start with kind of an overview of your life by developing a personal vision and mission statement. And that's the outline of the house, as it were, kind of the footprint of the house. And then we go kind of room by room with all of the different things that you have to think about. And for each one, then we work through goals and we do coaching to help, I do coaching to help the person really figure out how to have that thing. So for instance, one of the areas that we look at is we look at meaningful work. And I don't like to talk about it as career so much anymore because so many of the people that I work with are in their second or third or fourth career, or perhaps they're in retirement, or more people are kind of retired, you know. They've built a new career, now they're an entrepreneur, something like that. So what's meaningful to you? What brings joy into your life? And we create a whole room kind of around that. We kind of furnish that room as we move through the coaching. And we do that with what are your surroundings going to look like? Where do you want to live? Where do you want to be spending your time? What are your outlets for creativity? How do you bring spirituality into your life? How do you handle your finances? That I'm having somebody else write for me. I'm bringing in a wonderful financial expert to do that piece. I'm bringing in an exercise and nutrition specialist to do the health and well-being room of the house. You know, there's some rooms of the house where I don't really know how the furniture fits. So I'll be bringing other people in to do those rooms. Nurturing. Who are you nurturing? How are you being nurtured? Relationships. You know, as we age, the people we have relationships with change. We start losing our friends sometimes, or we have very different interests than our friends had. An old coaching buddy of mine had been living in the same neighborhood for maybe 30, 40 years. She's in her 70s and she does dance recitals and cartwheels, so she's not, you know, your typical 70. And she said, I love these women to death, but I want to talk about something more than lip gloss and grandchildren. Yeah.
I want to go back to the structure question for a moment. So many people live in containers, not just physical containers, but containers created by their parents, their teachers, their jobs. How do you give someone permission to make their own blueprint?
Well, I think that's where the coaching, most of the coaching comes in. The blueprint is just a device to get something down on paper. But then to make it a reality, it takes a lot of supportive coaching, a lot of working with the person, a lot of helping them move past barriers that they've had in the past, and most often realizing things that they didn't realize about themselves.
You talked at a point earlier before we started about how everyone has a personal metaphor. What did you mean by that?
This is something that I bring to coaching from my background in education. basically. I believe that everybody is open to learning if only you can find the right way to phrase it for them. So I call that finding the right metaphor. What's going to work for them? All right. So I'm working with a client now who is having, she's given me permission to tell her story, as long as I don't mention her name. She's having a really hard time giving up old roles and old relationships and having the people around her understand that she's 60-something years old. She's an independent adult. She's not the little sister. She's not the baby. She's not any of those things anymore. And so we started talking about this, and we started talking about control. I asked her to tell me some stories about, when she was sort of out of control and what she was doing. And she told me this wonderful, wonderful story about how she didn't want to go and visit some relatives. And she just wasn't going to go. She was going to stay home. She was going to read a book. And her father said, no, you're going. Everybody's going. You have to go. So he picked her up. He put her in the car. It just happened to all of us, probably at some point in our childhood, and said, okay, this is it. You're going. They get there. And my little 8-year-old client says, well, I'm here, but I'm not getting out of the car. So he rolled down all the windows so that she would, have enough air and be safe and everything like that. The whole rest of the day, everybody else came out to the car to visit her. They brought her food, they brought games, they hung over the window of the car. She'd go, no, 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 you can't come in the car. And we realized in that moment that that was her metaphor for the independent self, the queen of the car. So I just love it. And every time she has to confront somebody and she has to tell them what she wants or that they can't do what it is that they want to do in her life, I said, no, no, no. You just see yourself sitting there. You are the queen of the car. They can't touch you. So that's one example of a metaphor.
And searching for that metaphor is part of the coaching that you do.
It is. It's a huge part of really getting to know your client well. It's part of listening very carefully and understanding what kinds of words they use and what kinds of things. I don't like the word resonate, but it's the only one that works. What kinds of things resonate for them, and then turning that into some pictures that they can hold in their mind.
How do people work with you?
Okay, well, you can find me on Facebook. You can come to my blog, expandingyourcomfortzone.com, or you can come to my sparkling new website, which is susanrmeyer.com, and just rummage through the drawers, look around, check out the different rooms. There's lots of things to take home free, and see if you like it, see if you like what's going on. The people who I work best with are the people who come, look around, and really understand that we can work together to do brilliant, brilliant things with them. And the people that I like working with best are people who come to me with vague possibilities for their lives, and I work with them to turn them into passionate probabilities.